I'm Philipp Wittmann, winemaker in the southern part of Rheinhessen. My job is family business, and I grew up in a little estate. We grow 30 hectares of vineyards, white wine focused, mainly Riesling producer. 75% of our production is Riesling, followed by the different Burgundy varieties. We also produce a little part of Pinot Noir, so we have a little bit of red wine, but the white, dry Riesling wines are the most important thing, what we do. Our vineyard sites are based on limestone soils, and these are always giving the texture into the wine. From the basic wine up to the top wine, you always get these nearly salty characteristic of our soils in the wine. For sure, the style is different to the more northern regions. We are producing dry Rieslings, so it's our tradition. Also in the old days, people have produced dry wine here in my region. The reason for this is that we get the right fruit ripeness year by year. So it's not, if you produce these fruity, delicious, sweeter styles, you always have also to go the way of elegance, lightness and everything. And in my region, we do get really a ripe fruit texture where classically a dry wine makes more sense. And so we follow this year by year, and we produce 4 different wines in the top range, 4 different vineyard sites, which should give you the best possible expression of the single vineyards.
Awesome.
So let's talk about our different wines we produce. In the basic assortment, we do have a brand which is called 100 Hills. The idea behind this is that my region, Rheinhessen, is called the land of the 1,000 hills, and we produce some wines from around here, from my neighbor village, and therefore we decided to take the name 100 Hills. For these wines, we have organic certification, and these wines should show the fruit expression of the variety in the best way. We produce a Pinot Blanc, we produce a Riesling, and we also produce a Rosé from Pinot Noir fruits. And all these 3 wines should show in the best possible way elegance, fruity texture, and just a delicious style for easy drinking in a way. Yeah, then we have the estate grown wines, biodynamic farming, family owned vineyards. The most important wine of the Wittmann estate is the estate Riesling. We produce this wine on very chalky soils. It's a very straight texture. It's of course also yellow fruit driven. When it's young, it's also a little bit reductive sometimes, some flintstone aromatics maybe when it's young, and a wine which is able to store for 3 to 6 years, I would suggest. Of course, best to drink after 2 years maybe, when it's on its perfect texture of young fruit flavors and also these soil salty aromatics from the limestone soils. Then we do have 2 wines named by the village, but produced in a level of a premier cru. It's Westhofen Riesling. Westhofen, that's the village name. The fruits are coming only from the Moorstein area, Moorstein single vineyard, our best vineyard site maybe. Very chalky, limestone rocks in the underground, and through this we get a combination of yellow fruit, of salty lengths, and a very complex aromatic structure. A wine for aging, with a good aging potential, but also nice to drink young. Riesling, same with Chardonnay in my opinion, is a variety where you always could drink young, and you also have to have a view on the development. Yeah, the second premier cru is the Nierstein Riesling. Nierstein may be the most famous wine village in my region, Rheinhessen. Grown on red slate soil, so totally different soil. It's a warmer place, earlier fruit ripeness, therefore very yellow, fruit-driven, intense, ripe, more creamy. Earlier to drink maybe, but in a very mineral and intense texture too, and also with a great aging potential. Yeah, up to the single vineyards of Westhofen, my hometown, and yeah, we have 4 different vineyard sites which are classified as Grand Cru vineyard site. It's Aulerde, it's Kirschbill, it's Brunnenhäuschen, and it's Moorstein. Aulerde, that's the warmest vineyard site of my village Westhofen. Heavy clayish topsoil, of course the influence of limestone, but not a rocky underground. And the important thing of Aulerde is also that the wines are quite old, planted in the beginning 50s, very old wines, very low yields through this, and a very complex yellow fruit texture. A lovely wine which is always charming and a little bit easier to understand when it's young, and never too big but rich in texture. Second wine is Kirschbill. Kirschbill, it's a neighbor vineyard site. It's just 200-300 meters away from the Aulerde, but totally different in taste. It's much more influenced by the limestone rocks which are in the underground. It's a heavy clayish topsoil, and Kirschbill wines are always more spicy, more exotic in its aromatics, and they have more length. It's more salty, and it's wine which has to be stored a little bit longer, and a wine which is a combination of intense aromatic complexity and refreshing aftertaste. So quite unique characterization. Yeah, then we go up on the hillside. We have talked about Aulerde and Kirschbill on a level of 100 to 200, 250 meters altitude. On the hill, more on the upper side of the hill, we talk about Brunnenhäuschen vineyard. Brunnenhäuschen is situated on a level of 200 to 240 meters, a cooler place, south-faced. And the most important thing on Brunnenhäuschen is that it's a red soil. It's a terra rossa, so a lot of iron in the soil, and again limestone rocks in the underground. And through this wine, which is intense, which is a little bit more creamy and full-bodied, with a very salty and long developing aftertaste, a wine which should be stored for a few years before it's on the perfect stage, but again also to drink young, possible to drink young when you love young Rieslings.
And fascinating to me, as we drove by the vineyard, we saw that it's just sort of your section that is the iron-based material. The rest of it was like the rest of the hill was more chalk and clay.
True, it's a little part in the hills of Westhofen where you find these red-colored soil, and it's a unique piece. It's something special in our village, and I'm quite proud of it because of this uniqueness, for sure.
It certainly was very unique in the flavor profile, different than all the others. Very cool.
Right.
And on to Moorstein, yes?
Yeah, Moorstein, Westhofen, that's the most famous vineyard site we own, I personally think. The dry Riesling characterization of Moorstein is, of course, there is a lot of intense flavors because of these long hanging times of the fruit. It's a cool place, So we always have the west wind coming over, and it's south faced, and we have a very heavy clayish topsoil, limestone rocks again in the underground, and through this vegetation period is quite long. Fruits getting all these intense aromatics through this, and you could also find this in the wine. Mm-hmm. It's yellow fruit driven, but in a complex way, and it's influenced by this clay and limestone in a very special way. When it's young, it seems sometimes quite massive and intense. And when it's developing, it's shown step by step its single texture things it has, and so it's like a flower which is start to open step by step in long terms, and this makes Moerschein quite special. And I would also say it's the most salty Riesling we produce.
Yeah, it was certainly the most impactful of the wines as a young wine. I'm not saying that you should like it better as a consumer or whatever, but it was definitely so specific. It was very beautiful, and it was great to taste it young. And I thank you for your time.